Okay, the first point for our class today is don't commit any sins under the pretext of da'wah. Some people fool themselves. They fool themselves because you can't fool Allah. They will justify a stance or a setting that they're in, a sinful setting that they're in, by crying and saying da'wah. Don't be caught, for example, sitting at a table with alcohol, where alcohol is being roamed around, passed around, and say, Wallahi, I'm giving these people da'wah. When a case like that was presented to Umar ibn al-Khattab, he started with lashing the people. He ordered the lashing of the people who were not drinking before those who were drinking. Some of them said, we're fasting, Umar. He said, with them start. Don't be caught among those who, a man, a brother, among women. You see him in a setting where women are improperly dressed, and then he'll tell you, I'm giving da'wah. Don't be caught with a sister alone and say, Wallahi, I'm teaching her Quran. Don't have those tights or the tight jeans and that which they call today a scarf or hijab. They call today a hijab, actually. Looking more like someone who's trying to model, standing before a table with a few leaflets, and then cry and say da'wah table. I mention this because of this matter is widespread. For example, it's widespread in weddings. You see weddings where Muslims do. We can't call them non-Muslims. If they make their salah and they commit sins, we can't call them non-Muslim, but it's extremely major sin what they do. They have every shaitanic instrument in the hall. Nisa'un kasiyatun ariyat. Women improperly dressed. Mixing and mingling at its peak. And women with all that which is prohibited for another foreign man to see, they're there in that setting. You ask a brother who you presume is righteous, what were you there doing? This happens frequently. I'm not saying it's all the brothers who are religious do that, but it does happen frequently. What are you doing over there in that wedding? Wallah, da'wah. Your da'wah is to talk people in a setting like that out of that sin. If you can't, then you need to walk away. If you can go talk to them and talk them out of that sin and stop them, then not only should you go, but you must go if you can talk them out of it. Because that's the peak of ordaining the good and forbidding the evil. If you go talk to them and they're going to listen to you and stop those instruments and stop the mixing and mingling, you say, Wallah, I'm going to go stop them and I'm going to talk them out of it, then you must go. However, if that's not what happens, then you shouldn't be in a setting like that. In Ad-Durr al-Mukhtar, in Ad-Dusuqi from the Malikiyah, in Al-Shirazi في المهذب, and Ibn Dwayyan في المبدع, and Ibn Qudama in al-Mughni, and I think it is actually the seventh volume. The seventh volume. In these books, which are books on books of fiqh and the four madhahib, if you can go and change a munkar, go change it. If you can't, then you don't need to be in a setting like that, even if you are invited. Why I would say even if you are invited? Because many of the ulama consider it wajib. If you're invited to a wedding or a walima, it's wajib upon you to respond to your brother's invitation. It's wajib to go. Yet if there is public sins that are widespread that you can avoid, then that wajib is no longer a wajib. That wajib is haram upon you to go, according to the four madhahib and in the books that I mentioned. It's haram upon you to go unless you can change it. Then if you can change it, then you can go.